Hey, Adam,
Geez,
one
why,
thing.
why do you think they called bumpers, Gary?
I don't know.
Because they come at the beginning, at the end, like bumpers.
Alex, you're a marketing guy. Do you like that design behind Paul? Does that logo thing look pretty cool to you?
Hey, I forgot to hit the record button.
Yeah, that's really professional, isn't it?
Well, this is a professional podcast.
I met her in a parking lot and was handed 2 little Yorkies. And the only person I knew that knew Yorkies was Paul. So I called Paul and said, Paul.
Sweet Talk is a weekly 20-minute podcast brought to you by the Continuing Education and Workforce Training Division of Idaho State University's College of Technology. Find us on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and SoundCloud and subscribe today. Now it's time to get started with Sweet Talk.
Welcome back to Sweet Talk, everybody. As you can see, with me, we have Shirley Hockett, who is our guest co-host today. How are you doing, Shirley?
I am doing fine.
I really like that background. If for those of you listening and not watching, Shirley has a background of a beach and a palm tree, and I really want to be in that actual location right now. Well, today we have a return.
A little warm weather.
Yes, yes. Today we have a returning guest you may all know very well. For those of you who do not know him, Andy Whittier is an ISU alum, also an ISU athletic alumni. He was on the Idaho State University football team, and he turned to an Olympic hopeful in the sport of skeleton. Welcome, Andy. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. No bad days is the phrase I like to use. So it's just another great day.
Now, we have Andy back on. Some of you may have watched him a few months ago when he was on, but there's been some updates in his career. Andy, I spoke with you a few weeks ago when you kind of updated me on what's happening with your skeleton career. I don't want to spoil it for you. I want you to allow everybody to hear it straight from you. So can you fill us in a little bit about what has changed in your skeleton career?
Yeah, so kind of last time we talked was essentially preseason. We were getting ready to head into our national push championships and stuff like that, which then leads into the first part of our season, which is November and December, like the early part of our tours. And then we go on Christmas break, and then we start the second half from January to March, where the team kind of gets split up. Some of us continue training here in the States in Park City and Lake Placid, New York. The other half goes to Europe to compete in what we call the Europa Cup and World Cup levels. So competing on all of those tracks. And so while that half of the team was over there, had just finished my North American Cup circuit. So I was training down in Park City, Utah, and then Lake Placid, New York as well. And we finished off the season. Lake Placid was hosting the final races of the season for World Cup, and our North American race and our selection races for Team USA. So we had a lot going on in the month of March, like end of February, month of March. So I actually spent a month and a half in New York at our Olympic Training Center in Lake Placid. One, training, and then two, competing as well. So was able to race in our North American Cup race there, was doing really good. I caught a bad line, and this sport is just like any other type of racing where milliseconds and half a seconds can be the difference of a really good placement and then just dropping back a ton of spots. So caught a bad line through 2 curves, lost 10 spots, and I was like, dang. But that's part of the sport. It's how you get better, and you learn some cool things at the same time. With that, the following week, we had our World Cup athletes gearing up for their races. And in that time, we were allowed to train with them. So it's really cool to watch the top people in our sport, men and women, and just learn from them at the same time. And with this, on race days, I'm not sure if I talked about this in the beginning, we have what's called forerunners. So these are athletes who they're not racing on the same day as the World Cup athletes or Europa Cup or NAC athletes. They're essentially test pilot sleds. And so we send them down the track. They make sure the left and right grooves are cut equal. So as you come out of them, you don't get sucked left or right. And then it's a way for the track crew and timing to make sure the timing on the track is accurate. And I was selected along with a couple other of my teammates to forerun for our World Cup athletes, which is it's a super cool environment. Race days are just different, but then being able to do it for the best athletes that our sports have to offer just kind of elevates it to another level. So that was awesome. And then on that run, I actually hit a PR of mine, so that was a huge just kind of confidence boost for my mental, and it was super awesome. The ice was great that day, thanks to our track crew. And then after that was over, we went right into our team selections moving forward for this coming 24-25 season. So we'll do half the team races in Lake Placid in March, and then we'll finish up in the fall in Park City. And that kind of determines where each athlete falls and what circuit they're going to be on. And so with that, did pretty good. Was able to make our North American Cup tour again. So I'll be doing that full tour next year. With that, I also moved up in rank thanks to my sliding and my coaching. So that was probably one of the biggest stepping stones for me. And then moving up in rank, and this is the big news, this is the awesome stuff. It qualified me for housing to live at the Olympic Training Center in Lake Placid, New York. So I will actually be reporting there a week from today. I start my journey from Idaho to Lake Placid, New York, a little 35-hour drive. And that's where I'm going to be spending the rest of my summer, right into our training camp and push champs, and then right into our season. And essentially the next 10 years are built around that and spending my time in Lake Placid, New York.
I'm so excited to hear this. We'll have to have you back on again in the fall to keep up. So here's my question. You talked about ranking up and how that allowed you to then live at the training facility in Lake Placid. How do athletes in your sport rank up?
So there's two ways essentially. One of the first things is we have what's called push standards. So you have A, B, and C, and this is just from the start block, right? Like from the moment I push off the block to the first timing eye to the second timing eye, we have a split that we have to hit for A, B, and C standard. C standard keeps you in the program. B standard qualifies you for racing, and then we're all trying to reach that A standard just because that gives us the most competitive advantage with the top athletes in the world. So that's kind of priority one. And then priority two is getting better at driving, as we call it when we're on the sled. And it's pretty funny, like it's such minimal movement, so the driving is so minuscule that you do. But showing the coaches that you can navigate a track, understand the pressures, how you're entering, how you're exiting, what you did, the cause and effect, and everything like that, showing improvement in your driving skills is the next way to move up in rank.
So it seems like it's technique and speed. Am I correct in that?
100%. And that's one of the things I love most about this sport is because it takes, I like to call it, it's controlled chaos. So you have to be super explosive, as fast as you can be out of the blocks, and that's the chaos that's going on. And then once you're on the sled, you have to be as controlled and smooth and relaxed as if you're golfing, right? Just smooth, let the club do the work. I like to think let the sled do the work. You're just there to help it out when it needs it. So it's from pure power to pure relaxation in a matter of milliseconds.
Wow, that sounds pretty fun. I mean, I don't think I would want to go down that.
It's an adrenaline rush for sure. I recommend everyone, at least in our region, go try it down in Park City. They'll let you do the bobsled and skeleton tourist adventure. You just start halfway up the track, you go down with a certified pilot, and it's a fun time, fun experience.
Okay, that might be half the track, might be more my speed.
Yeah,
now,
definitely.
Yeah, Shirley's quite great on some of these interviews. I think the mother and Shirley showed up last time we were talking.
I promise I put her in the closet.
Yeah. Okay. So another question I have for you is with your rank, so you were in a lower rank before this point, and that qualified you for certain races. So what types of competition will this higher rank qualify you to compete in, or like try to get on a team for?
Right. So essentially, I've made our North American Cup team. So I'll be able to do the full circuit this year, which is racing in Lake Placid, New York, Park City, Utah, and then Whistler, Canada. Whereas last year I was still working on my driving quite a bit, so the coaches didn't feel I was quite ready to be in Whistler, Canada, where that is the fastest track in the world. And as skeleton athletes, we're doing 90 miles an hour around some of those curves up there. So only 10 miles an hour faster than Park City. And so by training a ton more, being way more committed to the ice time in Park City and Lake Placid, it got me this opportunity to move up in rank, and now I'll be able to do the entire tour this year. And then give or take how I slide come this November, December. Obviously, my goal is to slide as best as I can, keep improving. If I show potential and there's sled allocations open, and there's spots open on our Europa Cup team to slide in Europe from January to March, those are potentials for me as well. So those are kind of my big goals for this year. Get a ton better at the NAC Cup, and then or the North American Cup, and then try and see what I can do for the Europa Cup and try and make that team for a race or two.
Have you applied for your passport yet?
That's actually on my to-do list this Friday. It expires in 2025, and I don't have any intentions of getting stuck overseas. So
Right.
that is this Friday's to-do list.
Good. Yeah, Shirley's applying for hers as well.
Yeah.
It can take it can take a while, but if yours has not expired, it is so much easier, right?
Yeah.
If it hasn't expired, it's so much easier. So where in Europe do they compete? Where is the Europa Cup?
Oh man, it's all over. And it's really fun to watch, one, just our social media highlight our athletes as they're traveling about, and then watch my teammates post about their journeys also. So some of the main tracks we slide at are Norway. So we've got Norway, 2 in Germany, 1 in France, Switzerland, Austria. I believe those are like the main ones that at least I've seen my teammates compete at recently. I know the one in Italy, they're trying to get up and running and rebuilt for the Olympics in 26. So who knows what's going to happen to that. And there's actually some cool news that we can talk about after we get through with this about the Winter Olympics for 26 and what that kind of looks like for the USA also. But yeah, just kind of all up and down Europe, right? It's not just located in 1 or 2 countries. It's you're flying, you're traveling, you're driving. It's really fun to hear the stories of my teammates. One, when they're in Europe and they're like, well, or they're in Norway. Like, well, we got 2 hours of sun today, because then it's just dark the rest of the day. And then the other part of like them driving on the Autobahn in Germany and stuff like that. So
I've heard
super
more stories
excited
about that one.
Yeah. Yeah. So super excited. One, awesome cheering on my teammates when they're overseas. Looking forward to hopefully competing with and against them come this time next year.
Now, how is the competition? Now, I would assume that in Europe, you're getting athletes from all over Europe as well as North America, et cetera. What is the competitive nature in like the Europa Cup versus the North American Cup?
So it's essentially like the next level, next stepping stone up, right? So North America Cup is definitely like you're getting your feet wet, you're dabbling in the racing world, kind of seeing what this is all about, developing some really base level skills that are going to help you compete at that next level. But then at that next level, you really have to take a deep dive into what we call curve theory and understand how does that make it applicable. Excuse me. And then once you've kind of almost mastered that and you're really competitive with your times, your top 10, and you're starting to do really good, that's when you get moved up into that World Cup selection of like, all right, let's start competing at this highest level to represent the USA.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
When you jump into a sport like this, do you do any research? I mean, do they require you to do any research? Like you have class times to sit down and explore this event or explore what you're going to do as to what's expected of you before you jump on the sled and head down that crazy hill at up teen speed,
Right.
and pray that you don't run into something that could hurt you?
Right. So we're getting, so with the new alignment and structure of our organization, it's definitely getting a lot better. When I first got into the sport, it was kind of like they invite you out to one, see if you can even do the sport, and then it's if you want to do research, it's on you and kind of learn about the equipment and what it is and how everything operates. And then once you're essentially in the USABS program, then we start going into some classwork, like you said. Like we'll break down a sled, we'll talk about runner care, sled prep, tightening everything on our sled, making sure everything's set properly, studying tracks, because it's one thing that we're highly encouraged to do, even at the base level, is our track notes. So we'll go on track walks, we'll write out the
curves
track,
and
the curves and everything.
oh,
If
cool.
we enter early, middle, late, nose up, nose down, what's the cause and effect? And then that's kind of like the preamble to the sled theory that I mentioned a couple minutes ago. We take that base layer, and then as you stay in the sport, it just gets your library of track notes just grows deeper and deeper. So that way, when you do go to a track in Europe, right, because that's not our home track, we only get a slide on those a couple times a year. We want to be able to read our track notes, say, okay, I remember this, or I've studied this, so I have an idea of what's going to happen when I go into this track. Because I may only get 6 to 15 runs before it's race day when it comes time to that. Like even when it comes to Olympics, like the Olympic time, I think the way my coaches have talked, and I've heard them talk about this, you only get 20 runs and then it's race day, race time. On a track, they like close it off to most athletes and then it's go time.
Wow.
So that
So
in-depth class period.
do you make it a habit to look at your sled before the event or before you, so that you make sure that all the nuts and bolts and everything is in there, and they're going to stay and not fall apart halfway down the
Yes,
well, I
yes,
can imagine you going down and you got a rail fall off here and a rail fall off here, and you're
Oh,
just
yeah.
scooting on the little,
Yeah,
and you're making
yeah,
this
absolutely.
big hole in the as you go down.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like a bond between you and your sled, right? You want to feel comfortable on it. You almost like want to be one with the sled as you're laying on there. It wants to feel like you want to feel like I am one with the sled, one with the force. It just like ebb and flowing through the track. So it's nice and smooth, right? Because if you feel like you're fighting your sled, you're in a fist fight for
Oh yeah.
15, 20 curves at 80 miles an hour. And that's not something to be having fun with. So yeah, you absolutely want to kind of build that relationship with your sled, know where things are at, know where your balance point is, know where the weight's at, know how you can lay on it, how you can bend it and twist it to make the most out of your speed lines.
Cool.
So what will your life look like once you're in Lake Placid? Like once you go there, what is it going to be like for Andy in his journey for skeleton?
Yeah. So one, super thankful first for Lookout Credit Union, allowing me to work remote while I'm over there. So huge shout out to those guys and the culture we've built here. So it's definitely like I haven't got our full training schedule out yet, but in my mind, what I'm looking forward to is cafe opens at 7. So wake up at about 6, kind of go through my morning routine, get ready, breakfast at 7, start working from 8 to 9:30, get most of my stuff done by then. Go to the gym, do whatever's on my programming for that day, weights, sprints, etc., something in that realm. Go to recovery, do a little more work, lunch, study, film, and like I said, study the other tracks across the world so I can build some deeper track notes in case I end up over there. Finish up a little bit of work if I have more work to do. Dinner time with my teammates, and then after that, that's dinner at 5, and enjoy the nice scenery, New York afterwards of Lake Placid, and
If he's
just
not
kind of
too
like make
exhausted.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
Lookout's going to let you work the hours that you can within your schedule.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah. So super
that's
thankful for those
that's
guys.
so nice.
Yeah. The culture we have here is amazing, and the benefits that we have to offer. So I'm super thankful for Lookout and allowing me this opportunity. I wouldn't be where I'm at now if I wouldn't have been able to take the time off to get to where I'm going.
No joke.
Okay. So Andy, we're running a bit low on time, so I want to kind of give viewers out there, if someone in the local community who's would like to follow your journey, would like to see how you're doing, is there a website they can go to or a place where they can go to keep up on what is happening with your skeleton career?
Yeah, the best places I post on social media kind of about all my big updates and stuff like that about what's going on. So Facebook, just Andy Whittier. And then Instagram is Andy Whittier 27. Both of those are going to give you just the most up to date about my skeleton journey.
Okay, so before I wrap up, would you like to take a second to give a shout out to all of your sponsors?
Yes, I would. That would actually be amazing. So, first and foremost, Lookout Credit Union. One, allowing me to work remote and then keep on sponsoring me throughout the last couple of years. Two is Cole, Chevrolet, Nissan, Kia. Those guys have been vital in my journey as well. They've been day one people. Art of Motion Chiropractor and Massage. They're located next to Gold's Gym in that plaza in Pocatello. 10 out of 10, the best people I've ever been to. Some of the nicest people I've ever met as well. Alpha Graphics in Idaho Falls sponsored some of my gear as well. And then actually Hooligans Bar, Evan Pruitt and his wife Amber, they helped me host one of the most fun fundraisers that I could have even imagined. We did a quaffing tournament last year. It was a ton of fun. So Hooligans Bar, Evan and those guys, they're some of the best local businesses that you could actually have in your corner. So huge shout out to those guys.
Well, thank you very much. So thank you, Andy, for joining us. Thank you for Shirley for co-hosting. If you like any of this content, please make sure you like, subscribe, follow us on social media. You can also visit us at cetrain.isu.edu if you would like to look for any of the courses we offer. Thank you so much and be safe out there.
Yes. Come back in one piece.
Yeah.